going as per the FIA rules?
It's going very well. The first long stage of 25 kilos was very rough. I think it's also because of the cars ahead of us that threw the stones in the road. But it went very well. We didn't have any punctures or whatever. And we kept it on the road and the next stage as well. It's a little bit different from the other rallies because we were doing like 2 stages without servicing in between. So we have to run with like spare wheels and take a little bit more cautious to get through the 2 stages because we haven't had any service in between. But we're here and it's going very well.
Crews on the Rally of South Africa could not complain about a lack of variety. From forest stages in Grabo, the event moved to the rolling wheat fields of the Botrevier area, with Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon running at the head of the Group N category and leading Class N3 from the Team Total Nissan Sentra of Clip Blackman and Johan Klaassen. Interesting situations were developing in the Group N category, but chasing after Blackman and Klaassen and the Class N2 runners were Class A7 crew Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch, who were going along steadily in their VW Golf. Coleman is a former traffic policeman and good-naturedly endures a lot of ribbing from fellow competitors and rally enthusiasts. Coleman and Koch were involved in a good dice with Class A6 combination Craig Trott and Brian Duncan, who were headed for retirements 2 stages down the road. Trott and Duncan at this stage were at the front of a gaggle of Class N2 cars, led by championship leaders Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the Team Total Toyota Corolla. Their spate of punctures had not yet proved too much of a problem, with the Team Total pair locked in battle with Cobus Roos and Neil Fourie in the Hencom Motorsport Toyota Corolla. Roos is the son of former factory driver Koos Roos, and charging along behind the Hencom car were local crew Diffie Moreira and Dani de Waal, who were making good use of local knowledge to move to the front of the Class N2 runners. Right behind them were another Team Total crew in Gijs Klein and Johan Barnard. At the front of the field, Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson in the Castrol Toyota Conquest were gradually starting to inch away from Jan Habak and Doug Judd in the VW Motorsport Golf. With victory on this event an absolute necessity, Damso and Hodgson took just over half a minute off the championship leaders in special stages 4, 5 and 6. The 2 factory crews were already around 2 minutes clear of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, with Habak and Judd temporarily putting the brakes on the Damso-Hodgson charge in stage 7 by posting the same time as the rally leaders. It was not part of the Lawrence-Paisley game plan to get involved in a dice with the 2 factory cars. The Team Total crew were busy building a cushion over Paolo Piazzamuso and Richard Leake in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort, who were now fully recovered from their scare before the Botrevier service park. The Sasol Ford was still under pressure from Jürgen Feckert and Dave Lukowitz, with the Dunair Toyota Corolla now enjoying a comfortable Class A6 lead over Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aris, who lost over a minute in special stage 3 with brake problems. At the front of Class A7, Sjoerd van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks Towing VW Golf had established a good cushion over Barry Grobbelaar and Mike Burrows. Van der Walt and Harding were firmly in the top 10 but had fallen behind Feckert and Lukowitz. After their early brake problems, Barry Grobbelaar and Mike Burrows were back on the pace in the Team Total VW Golf and were moving back into the top 10. Also starting to make up ground after their disappointing start to the day were JP Damso and Aris, while another Zimbabwean crew, Jamie White and Philip Archinul, were also having their first taste of Western Cape rallying. They were out in the Nissan Sentra, in which Hannes Grobler and Dave McGregor won last year's Group N championship. The car now runs under Castrol Nissan Motorsport Zimbabwe colours, with the pair running second in Class S20, but a long way behind the Kuhn Grobbelaar BMW. Another car with South African connections was the Hyundai station wagon, driven by Namibians Theo Kutsia and Nico Sneeman, with the car starting its motorsport career in the Stanek Group N Circuit Racing Championship. When crews arrived at the Caledon service point, they were met by Motorsport South Africa Rally Commission officials on hand to take fuel samples. Motorsport is strictly governed, with fuel samples part of the controls exercised in rallying. MSA Rally Commission Chief Scrutineer Jerry Bailey explained the procedures.
Sampling the fuel is a part of motorsport where there is regulations in place that must be followed. This fuel will now be sent to the South African Bureau of Standards, where it will be tested to conform with the laid down rules under which we participate in. Thereafter, they will pronounce whether the fuel is legal or illegal. The main idea behind this is obviously no contamination must come into the fuel sample at all. It may not be handled from this point on in any way. And in fairness to the entrants and to Motorsport South Africa, we have to make sure that it will not be contaminated in any way.
While technical formalities were being taken care of, Championship leader Jan Habek reviewed VW Motorsport tactics up to this point and indulged in a spot of tongue-in-cheek gamesmanship that's all part and parcel of rallying at this sort of level.
Our strategy is really to get a good position with a minimum of risk, and obviously the local stages, he knows them pretty well. So we don't want to go and stick our neck out, but maybe he's throwing out the bait for us to take, and I think he's wasting his time. Go and tell him that.
Well, great stuff from the South African champion-elect. But with no championship pressures to worry about, Enzo Kuhn was simply having fun in the Fuchs Top Car BMW, which had had a number of technical improvements since the last event.
Driving a rear-wheel drive takes getting used to, and you find most of the time the road's too narrow. But it's certainly fun. I'm enjoying it a lot, and from the sounds of it, so are the spectators. We upgraded the gearbox to a straight cut unit and worked on the rear brakes, because we've always been running standard brakes. So the car's a little bit faster, but you know, it's a continuous process, and we're hoping to develop it even further.
Enzo Kuhn and Steve Provel are hard at work in a BMW that can be a bit of a handful at times, but also enjoying himself while still finding his feet in South African conditions was Zimbabwean driver Jamie White.
Yeah, well, like I said, it was our first trip to Cape Town. The roads are beautiful. Our railing's a little more rougher than this. And like the other Group N guys that in South Africa really are quick. You know, I mean, we really found out competing against them, you know, in this event now. And at each stage we're getting a bit closer to them, so we just hope by later this afternoon we should be a lot closer.
For Class N2 champions Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper, damaged tyres and wheel rims told their own story of woe.
No, we were just unlucky there. I mean, Querbus, Diffie and Cliff got a puncture in the previous stage. They lost about 30 seconds each. And then we had one, the following one, which was a long stage, so it's cost us 4 minutes. So it's a bit unfortunate, because it's thrown us out of the dice now at the moment.
A puncture also hit local Caledon crew Diffie Moreira and Donnie de Waal, but a little local knowledge was a big advantage as far as they were concerned.
Ja, dit tel ongelooflik baie. Die veral die oppervlakte van die pad sê vir jou baie. Jy weet waar jy kan rem en waar jy versigtig moet wees. So dit ja baie ja.
In among a few sob stories here and there from South African competitors, it was refreshing to find a crew who were quite happy with their lot. Namibian Theo Kutsia appeared to be full of the joys of spring.
So far, so good. I've got a little bit of a problem. We lose some guard, but we're still going. There's nothing wrong with the car on the stage. And it's running good, running well. The forest stages and that thing is very nice. And the road is good. The road is very good.
Special Stage 8 with Castrol Toyota factory crew Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson in a tenuous 22-second lead. And despite Jan Habek's earlier service park comment, the VW Motorsport crew weren't exactly hanging around.
This is crest and crest past left over narrow. Easy left and swap left to right. Swap slow left to right. 80. Crest is past right, 50. Crest is past right, 50.
An insight into co-driver Douglas Judd working off the rally pace notes, now an integral part of South African rallying, provided by the organisers. Steaming along behind the VW Motorsport factory entry were Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, who were now almost a minute ahead of Paulo Piazzamuso and Richard Leake in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort. They were still under a little pressure from Dunair Toyota Corolla crew Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, who were firmly in